Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We spoke earlier today to Gary Thompson, CEO at Brixton Metals. We talked through the new plan of attack. Feels like a new company, new strategy, and they've got about $8 million in the bank to do something about it. We focus on Thorn, their main project, discuss Langus, and how those two complement each other, and plus obviously the HPX farm-in project. If you want thoughts and opinions on all of those and the other topics discussed, the company itself, and indeed Gary, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. We've got commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities. We've got training courses on there. We do summaries of all the interviews that we do, just to save some time, because we know you're busy people. But most importantly to us, there's a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, friendly and safe environment, free from judgment, trolling and abuse. And if that sounds nice to you, and I hope it does, go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. And we'd love your feedback too. So give us a like, leave your thoughts below. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today, do take a look in the description below. Gary, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. Hey, Matt.
Hey, good to see you. Good to see you. We need to let everyone know, we did try this last week. We had a few technical issues, didn't we?
Well, yeah, couldn't hear. You could, well, we got it sorted.
Yeah, we got it sorted. Okay, well, hey, so how's life over there? All well?
Yeah, doing well. Yeah, first I had a great sunny week in Vancouver, so it's feeling like spring. Other than COVID, it's good.
Cool. Hey, well, I just wanted to catch up with you last week because we've seen that you've been quite busy, and we were talking to the guys. It kind of feels like a new company, quite frankly, in many ways. You seem to have rearrange the deck slightly. So I wanted to sort of have a chat about what's going on and what the thinking is and where it's going. But before we do, can you give us that 1 minute overview of the business, and then I'll pick it up with from there for me.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Brixton's an exploration company. Brixton Metals Corporation trades on the TSXV BBB and on the OTCQB under BBBXF. We're focused on gold, silver, copper, and in Canada and the US. And exploration stage. And we've got basically a very big budget for 2021, and we're excited about transforming Brixton into a much larger company than it's been. It's certainly been on a rapid growth trend over the last year.
Yeah, it has. Because I remember when we first spoke about 18 months ago, it seemed like a big company inside a small company, because you had a lot of optionality, not a lot of cash, and not a lot of movement over the past 10 years. So what's changed? Well,
I think the market's changed, really. Frankly, it's been the last few years where we've started seeing capital come back into the space. So we started the company at the peak in 2011, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster down. And really 2015 was really the bottom. 2016 it started to get a bit of a life, but it's really been the last few years where we've seen significant interest in the space in general. And also the amount of capital that we've been able to bring in, ended the year with $9 million in the till, which is a record year for us for activity and investor interest. So, obviously the closing the deal with HPX on the Hog Heaven project was an exciting opportunity to bring them in a world-class partner development on our Hog Heaven project in Montana. And that also brought in Mr. Robert Friedland as now we're a second largest shareholder. So that partnership is underway and working away. So that kind of takes, and they're the operators, so that takes that project workload out of Brixton really for the time being, and allows us to focus on our other projects. And we've been busy at Langus. We've just completed about 18,000 meters in a fall-winter program focused on high-grade silver and cobalt. So that's been very interesting because every batch of results has demonstrated, and I think contrary to maybe what people thought or think or have the perception of the camp, is that there's narrow high-grade veins. Yes, that's true, but we're showing that there's narrow high-grade veins potentially over tens of meters, not narrow. So we're demonstrating broader high-grade intervals there. So that's a significant shift, I think, in thinking of the project. And now we're starting to ramp up into our Thorn project with starting the season with a $5 million budget for the Thorn project. We're breaking records And this, for viewers that may know the company or know the Thorn project from a few years ago, this is not the same project. This is a new emerging district copper gold porphyry system.
Okay.
And we're looking to unlock that potential.
Okay, I'll get into the project, each project in a sec, if you mind. I'm just sort of intrigued about the journey here. Okay, you were a prospector, explorer, multiple targets. You have 4 targets because the one you haven't mentioned is Atlin, which we'll come back to as well. And you're saying the market's changed. The timing is everything in investing. Do you think that you came at it the right way? Did you deliberately say, we just got to bide our time and sit this thing out, it'll sort itself out eventually? Or were you tempted at any time to offload stuff just to survive? Because you were running on vapor at various periods of that 10 years. And now you've kind of entered this kind of slightly more halcyon environment. Do you kind of regret anything when you're looking back?
I mean, not really. I think, I've lived through 2 major downturns in the mining sector. The guys that have made all the money in the business have money and invest when everybody else is running away, going the other way, getting out, not putting in a nickel into the market. We were looking for assets, and we got Langus in 2015, 16 in the bottom of the market for a song and a dance that nobody wanted. Hog Heaven's a good example. The project we got in 2017, nobody cared really about metals projects and opportunities. Not many. There were people looking in the business, the guys that were hustling, but the generalists were sitting back going, this is, the commodity sector has been beaten down hard, man, for the last decade. And now we're starting to, it's revenge of the miners coming back and have been working hard at it. So looking for those opportunities that you could get for reasonably low cost. And that's where we've been successful in doing that in the bottom of the market when nobody cared. Now we're starting to reap some of those benefits. Look at the Hog Heaven example as a good one. Langus is another one that's emerging that could be a good opportunity for us to monetize. And Thorn has morphed into this amazing big project. And Atlin we haven't talked about, but it's a gold camp that is looking for a partner. Those kinds of things. We need to focus the company, and it's a bit of a new vision for us now that we're realizing we've got this massive copper porphyry district at our, wholly owned, at our fingertips with too many targets. We're spoiled. We got too many targets.
Oh boy. Times have changed. Times have changed. No, but let me finish on that point because it's important to me. I want to understand it. I buy the contrarian argument. Okay, you picked these assets up when no one else wanted them. You picked them up cheap when no one else wanted them. But there was a kind of survival mode attitude to this, and I guess you could only say what you could say. You don't want to damage the prospects of any of these assets. But you were in no fit state to take all of these projects forward yourselves, were you?
Yeah, and it's a challenge, right? It doesn't matter how big the company is, you don't have enough resources to develop them all. Even the biggest company in the world can't do it. And they even say that, if that one's coming in, something's got to go out kind of attitude. And you can only handle so many. And 4 big projects was a lot for the company. So it does, this opportunity with HPX does free us up to work on these other ones. And it takes a great opportunity. And that's a company maker project. The Hog Heaven project is a great project, and it's a company maker standalone, but it's hard to focus on that and that and that. So we're streamlining our vision, and I can tell you just based on the budget and the amount of resources we're allocating this year, it's all about Thorn.
Beautiful.
Copper, gold, porphyry, Thorn project.
Okay, so let's save Thorn to last then, because that'll be the appetizer to this one. Because I do remember a conversation with you was about you've got to get focused, you've got to work out where the money goes, etc. And I think you were reluctant or unable to talk about it at the time. But Hog Heaven, now that's a great deal. So can you just remind people of the terms of that deal and what that could mean for your shareholders?
Sure. It's a $44.5 million earn-in agreement with High Power Exploration, which is a Robert Friedland-led private company. They're focused on a U.S. platform to develop mines in the U.S. for copper, gold, silver. And so they liked what we have in Hog Heaven. And so HPX has to spend significant amount of dollars, $4.5 million in cash to Brixton over 6 years, and $15 million US dollars into the project to get 51%. So they have 6 years to do that. They can elect to go to the next level, which is another 5-year earn-in for another 25 million US. They have the election and option to get 75% of the project. So if they take it that far, it's going to be an exciting project. It already is an exciting project. So with a decent amount of capital, we believe obviously it's going to be good. So assuming that they go to that extent, the next level, then it's not a free carry, but it's a deferred carry from that 75% earn-in to a development stage. So at construction decision, they're going to develop a mine. Then it's a cash call to Brixton for that a deferred carry from the 75% to development stage.
Okay, so
we can elect to build the mine.
Absolutely. Okay, so as I understand it, it's like $500,000 on signing and $500,000 a year for the first 4 years. So $2.5 million. Does that cover your G&A?
Yeah, it's pretty close to our G&A coverage. I mean, we're growing. We're starting to ramp up marketing activities as well. But that's kind of the way to look at it. Really, our G&A is covered for the next 6 years.
Okay, which is interesting. And what do they need to find? What's going to keep them in this project? What's going to keep them going the first 6 years and the next 5 years?
Well, I think is a proof of concept that this is not a small scale mining opportunity. That this is a large scale, big, deep mineralized system with copper, gold, silver, and something that they can make a mine out of. So they'll know. Pretty sure they'll know in the next few years once they get drilling.
Yeah, I mean, and again, just an honest conversation. You know, when big companies come in, I guess we can call Robert Friedland a big company, and whether through HPX or otherwise, they know very quickly what this optionality means to them, and they'll continue to work on it all they're bug at. Do you get the data, or do you inherit the data, or do you get the data back from them if they do decide to leave?
It is a data sharing process, and by the way, they need to spend that first tranche to get 51% or it's zero.
Okay, interesting. Okay, fine. Okay, we'll see what comes out of that. So when are they going to start working on this? When can we start to see news flow from them?
Based on indications, as they want to get their typhoon survey done before the summer. So from our experience, so you could get in there April, May timeframe from a season perspective. So our hope is that they would have that done and dusted by sometime in the summer on the geophysics. Large scale typhoon, which has their proprietary technology. So it'll be very interesting to see because they'll get down. They're talking, 1.5 kilometer depth potential. So big, something big system type view. So that's going to really shine the light on the opportunity more so than obviously what we have right now.
Okay, so the interesting thing to take away there is one, a lot of your G&A is covered, and two, they're committed to spend a decent chunk of change over the next 6 years, and we'll be able to see that in the marketplace because they're a public company, presumably, yeah.
Well, they're still private,
right? Okay.
But my understanding is that they're in the process of going public.
Right. So we will see information flowing from them when that happens. Okay. Let's talk about Langus. Or your press release page is just press release after press release of high grade silver numbers. You're starting to demonstrate a sizable system there, as you say you were describing earlier. It's not just high grade narrow vein. What do you know? Yeah,
it's been interesting from learning about the system itself, and the miners didn't get it all. We know that they mined their head grade. Just to remind the viewers, head grade at Langus was 25 ounces per ton silver. They only mined 10.6 million ounces, but pretty significant grade. And we haven't drilled it off. It's a long ways away from getting drilled off. And what we're realizing though, is it's going to take a lot more drilling than we anticipated. So we drilled 18,000 meters since October till just recently. So we do have another batch coming, and then that'll be it for the summer, and we'll shift in the Thorn. But we want to review that data and see what it looks like internally, and where do we go from here? Can we move this thing into a resource category. How many meters do we actually need to get this thing into a resource? And that's the question, because even back in the camp, we got into, like, we have another project we're not talking about in the camp. It's called the Hudson Bay. We generated some high grade numbers there too, but they never actually drilled any holes. Brixton was the first company to actually put a drill on the site, even though they mined out 6.5 million ounces without drilling any holes. Old school, get on the vein and stay on it. That's kind of how they did it in the camp. But we see a good opportunity here, and we're trying to figure out, can we, prove this thing up on a resource? Do we need to do a bulk sample? Do we need to do some new metal sorting technology that still learning about, that can help define these things a little better, and just keep drilling it off and get it to a point where, we don't need a lot of ounces at those kind of grades. If you could get 10 to 20 million ounces, you probably have a mine here. And, you need to show that or demonstrate that you have something that's going in that direction. And I think that'll be a time to either build a mine, or someone will build a mine, or sell it, JV it out, whichever we think is the best opportunity for shareholders to advance it.
Yeah, you've got to talk that language, but I'm thinking you've got a company maker in the shape of Thorn. You've got $8 million. So how much of that realistically do you go and apportion to Thorn, or how much do you apportion, to Langus? Because ideally you get another HPX walking into Langus, and you do a similar sort of deal, and you can focus on your company maker, which is Thorn. That's got to be the way forward, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. If we could, and we're working on that, I'd say our door is open to opportunities, however we can shape them on these things. We have another project called Atman we're not talking about, which is a kind of a similar thing. But it is the resources, allocation of resources on for this year is still lion's share at Thorn. But, the great thing about Langus, and the reason we acquired it, when we did in 2016, partly was we had Thorn. That was our flagship, always has been, essentially. But then we're stuck in this seasonality where you're pretty much no news flow for 6 months of the year. Actually, we never had Hog Heaven. We never had Atlan then. We had Thorn. And it's like, okay, well, we need something else to keep the news flow going. Because look at these junior mining companies live and die on their bloody news releases. You can make $1 billion company on a handful of holes, or be broke out of business. You know what I mean? It's like one of those, seems like it. It's not quite that dramatic, perhaps, but so we focused on that idea to say, well, we got to keep busy. But not only that, but keep our team busy. And we still actually kind of believe in that. So we got a big hire this year. We're hiring a lot of geologists this year because we got a massive program going on. We want to keep good core technical people together, and you need to keep them busy. And Langus is a good off-season news flow. We're generating good, solid results for silver and cobalt. You can't knock the numbers. And C, keeps our team busy. And D, let's sell the thing and make a bunch of money on it, or build a mine. I don't know how it's going to end. We don't know, but we've got to keep pushing these things forward. We have to threaten to build a mine before somebody's going to buy it. Probably that's how it kind of rolls.
It's interesting, because what I liked about the Hog Heaven deal was the quality of the strategic partner, because it's so easy to be desperate and take quick money from someone who then doesn't have the ability to actually go and do much with it. You kind of like, it's short-term gain and some long-term loss. So okay, I buy the seasonality component. I mean, how do you ever get rid of that? At what stage does Thorn need to get to where perhaps you don't need that seasonality of headlines, to be meaningful? Yeah.
Well, I think it's a market cap function, right? It's getting into the multi-100 million market cap, $500 million market cap, where your budgets are, $50 million a year budget. That then it becomes, immaterial. It doesn't really move the needle on your,
Okay.
On that side of it, I think it becomes if you're spending, put it this way, if you're spending that kind of money at Thorn every year, then whatever you could do at Langus still is very small and immaterial.
So tell me this then, like if I'm seeing those sorts of grades coming out of a Mexican mine, silver grades coming out of a Mexican mine, like you're throwing off with Langus, the market cap is significantly higher than yours. People are excited. Why are they at 45 million market cap? again, is this a historic thing? People are judging you on the past 10 years as opposed to what you are now? Why are people ignoring these amazing high-grade silver drill results?
Yeah, I think there's some stigma perhaps because look, you could have bought Brixton for 2 cents, like not long ago. So, you're a small company that don't have the assets, don't appreciate the assets. And then, one knock may be that, officially, if you look at the ounces we have on the book, there's not that many officially, right? So we've got these great portfolios. Hog Heaven's a great asset, but it's got historic resource of about, 60 million ounces silver equivalent historic resource based on a feasibility that was done in the late 80s. So, technically 43-101 resources, 21.5 million ounces of silver equivalent at Thorn is about the only official technical resource number. So that could be part of it. And, it's I don't know, it's an exploration business. It's easy. What I found is that everybody's an expert in the business, but most of them don't know what they're talking about. Is my kind of reality view of these things.
What's that mean? Tell me what that means. Tell me what that means.
Well, it's a tough business. Everybody's a critic, right? Everybody's a critic and a critic and a critic and a critic and a critic. And a good example is Pretium. They built this spectacular, one of the highest grade gold mines in the world, and still is. And there's still critics out there. It's like, hey, maybe we should, quit kind of critiquing it every inch of the way. They built a successful mine in a tough market and making good money and lots of high grade. Yeah, maybe it's not exactly precisely what it was they thought that it was, and it never is, because that's geology for you. It's an imperfect science. So it did the best it could to get along, but amazing development story, project, success story. There's still critics out there. So point is, there's no shortage of naysayers, I guess maybe the easy way of putting it. So you get that carryover perhaps, but you got to push through it, and we think we're on a track for amazing year this year, 2021. This will be the biggest year the company's seen, and this is a transformative year with a deal with HPX. We've got Thorn with the biggest budget we've ever seen on an 80-kilometer copper gold porphyry district. It's an amazing year in head for us. So we just got to keep at it and keep going, and we're going to get there. And forget about the naysayers and keep charging forward.
Okay, new company, new story. We said we talk about Atlan. Better talk about Atlan. Okay, and then,
a little bit, yeah.
Go on. So what's happening?
Let's do a little blurb on Atlan, only because Thorn has taken all of our focus and all of our resources, right? So that's but it's a great little project. It's the reason. Why did we get it in the first place? Well, we got it because we couldn't say no to this thing when we started looking at it. And why didn't I think of it before? It's a 30 by 40 kilometer district that produced, dominantly placer gold. Not much hard rock came out of here. A little bit of hard rock, high grade gold. But I tell people it's a 30 by 40 kilometer area, and there's gold coming out of all the drainages, and lots of placer, millions of ounces of placer gold. But other than Homestake in the 80s, nobody really systematically over enough time, because and the gold markets or whatever, that tried to try and figure out where all this gold came from. So it's a huge anomaly. Hasn't been figured out where all this gold came from. But the reason we got excited is there was new evidence to support an intrusion-related gold system. So think of it like Victoria gold in the Yukon was a placer gold, was originally found by placer gold, and then they found the source of the gold into the intrusion. So it's an intrusion-related system plus high-grade veins. Some amazing gold numbers. We did a little bit of work last year, pulled a 50-grammer. We're going to do some geochem this year, and we're looking for partners on it. It's a great project, but again, we're focusing all of our resources on Thorn, so we'll see if we can find a partner on Atlan to do some work and take it off our hands. That would be ideal for the company. Then even now we're even more focused on building the prize here.
Perfect. Okay, so just to that end. Okay, so if you find a partner for Atlan, it gives you more focus. You've obviously got HPX doing their thing, which is great. So between Thorn and Langus, you've got your hands full there. How do you build this story going forward? You talk about like the great, exciting year going forward, but Langus, if you just keep belting out these high-grade silver headlines, and the response is what it is now, that's going to be rather disappointing. So how do you zero? Is that zero?
Pretty much zero, about as zero as you could get on the response. Yeah.
Yeah. So zero on the response. It's going to be rather disappointing. So how are you planning going forward on changing people's perception? You've used the phrase, and I've repeated it a few times, with new company, new year, new beginning, all of those. It's new Brixton Metals, right? But
pretty much, yeah.
you've got to deliver that. So what can we expect to see? How does it work?
Well, look at if I had my way to do it, and cash wasn't a problem, which it never had that situation, right? Never had the budget really to get at it. But really what we need to do is get these things into resource category. You got to get them into resource category. So then the analyst can say, okay, you've got 1 million ounces of gold. And you can say whatever you want about those 1 million ounces, but there's still 1 million ounces on the books. So that's, I think, the missing ticket for Brixton that I would like to see change in the near future, and starting to put these things into category. But you can't do that without drilling. So you got to drill aggressively. And if it's not there, move on. And if it's there, build it up. That's going to get us there.
Okay. I think what we'd like to see is, you coming to the market and, telling us, how things are going more often. You've got some money now to do that. And I'm intrigued.
It's a good point. Yeah, we're actually doing that. We've got a green screen actually in our boardroom, and have been working on some fun little skits, if you will. What do you call it? We're actually developing, we're calling a target series. So it's kind of neat because Thorn, we've got so many targets, so many projects within the project, targets within the project, that we thought we could build these little 60-second clips. And it's just a 3D model. Here's some geochem drilling with some funky music, and bring in some mining characters. There's no shortage of characters in the mining business, but try and just make a simple little, we're calling it a target series video about the project. So you don't need to be a geologist to understand what's going on. We can just highlight some stuff, and it'll be a cool little model. And it's a way for us to help bring the data together into something that makes sense for everybody.
Okay, cool. You want to smell to it?
Yeah.
Don't wear that green shirt in front of the green screen. It's just, that's for you. You can keep that.
Okay.
I'm just saying, could look weird. Look, I appreciate the update. It's nice to sort of see how things are evolving and the story is morphing. And as you say, you've got a stack of money now to actually try and, you've been sort of budget constrained for many, many years. It'll be interesting to see how you apply this, and stay in touch, okay?
Yeah, no, it's going to be good. Yeah, definitely keep in touch.